It's 9 a.m. on Monday morning. You've listened to the podcast, you've prayed the prayers, and you feel anchored. But then you walk into the office and realize that the big win from last Friday didn't actually clear your plate. It just moved the goalposts. Suddenly, that success feels like a new baseline you have to maintain. And in 30 seconds, your vertical identity feels like a distant memory while the high pressure starts to scream. How do you stay anchored when your wins start to feel like weights? Today is about the practical tools, the specific pivots, resets, and rhythms that ensure you lead from stability, not the stress of your last success. We're moving from managing the pressure to mastering our peace, so you can do the work of high performance without the weight of high pressure. Do you find yourself sanitizing your faith just to fit into the corporate culture? Does your sense of worth rise and fall with your latest performance review? If you're an ambitious Christian woman navigating the friction between faith and work, you are not alone. Hi, I'm Jency, Jesus follower, corporate leader, and recovering overachiever. I spent years winning at work, but wrestling in my heart with the unspoken tensions of a secular workplace, until I learned how to decouple identity from performance, drop that corporate mask, and define success by purpose, not metrics. Welcome to Ambitious Faith at Work, the podcast for high achievers who want to lead with clarity, conviction, and courage, because you shouldn't have to choose between success and soul. So if you're ready to redefine success in a way that's anchored, authentic, and aligned, you're in the right place. It's time to stop hiding in plain sight and start showing up boldly as a light. You know, we often think the pressure will finally lift once we get that one big win. We tell ourselves, once I land this client or once I finish this project, then I can breathe. But I found that whether it's a failure or a success, the result is still the same. It's still high pressure. I remember a season where I was finally crushing it. I had just landed a massive win with the proposal I'd created, the kind that gets you the shout outs and all the all hands meetings and the congratulatory Slack message from not just your peers, but also your executives. My phone was buzzing with great job and huge win emojis. But I remember sitting at my desk staring at those messages, and I didn't feel the lift I expected. My internal narrative wasn't celebrating and saying, "Good job, Jency." It was already moving the goalposts. Can you do it again? Will they expect this every time? That carrot I had been chasing for months was finally in my hand, but it didn't feel like a reward. It felt like a new baseline I had to maintain. My new win had become my new weight to bear. I realized my win didn't bring me more peace, it just brought me more pressure. And I didn't have a strategy to protect my peace from my performance. And if I didn't have a strategy, my success was going to be the very thing that burned me out. So how do we build that strategy? How do we move from just managing our pressure to mastering our peace? In the last episode, we talked about the foundation of working from favor, not for it. But like I shared, knowing the truth in your head and living it out are two very different things. So today we're going to talk about a 3-part strategy designed to help you recognize the cycle of pressure before it takes over, master the mental resets required, and establish a rhythm that separates your wins from your worth. So let's dive in. The first part of the strategy is to recognize the hostage cycle. In the corporate world, we've been trained to ignore our internal volatility. We see the heart racing, our shallow breathing, and our frantic pace as just part of the job. But these should be red flags to us on our personal dashboard. This is the hostage cycle. It's that moment when your worth becomes a condition of your results and when you feel a sense of high pressure. But we've learned to normalize a state of high alert, not realizing that our peace is being traded for high pressure. So the first thing we need to do is tune in and recognize our tells. So your tell is that moment when a typo feels like a monumental failure or constructive feedback feels like a personal blow rather than just a professional adjustment. When your heart starts racing over an email or a typo, stop and identify it. Maybe you're short or blunt with others. Or maybe you actually have a physical reaction like sweaty palms or feeling yourself getting warm, talking too fast or too much. Maybe you clench your jaw or raise your shoulders. It could be any of those things. Or it could be things that are a little more hidden. So some examples of that may be you obsess with low-impact tasks so that you avoid the bigger things because they feel too risky. Or you take back delegated tasks when they're delayed. Or you have an urgency bias where you treat all of your notifications like a 4-alarm fire, trying to stay ahead or outrun the pressure. It looks different for everyone. For me, it's my mind racing, my temperature rising, my heart beating faster than usual, and things like being busy with the little things or polished procrastination of some of the bigger things. Those are my tells. These things are like indicators that our worth is being tied to our performance. We need to identify our physical and mental tells that may signal that we're being held hostage to something. What is it for you? Take a moment and think about it. And there's no judgment here, just honest awareness. Because recognition is the first step to reclaiming the keys to your peace. Because you can't fix what you don't find or what you don't notice. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, Paul tells us to take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. At work, we usually let our thoughts take us captive. Taking a thought captive means you stop being a passive observer of your stress and you start acting like the leader of your mind. You literally arrest the thought that says your worth is on the line. So how do we break this cycle of pressure before it takes over? I like to use something called the panic pivot. Basically, when you feel the panic, pause and pivot. It's a 3-step physical reset to break the loop that you're in. So the first step is to stop. Literally take your hands off the keyboard. Break the physical connection to the work. You're pausing the momentum of your tell and your panic and what you're feeling. Step 2 is to sigh. To take one deep intentional exhale, or more than one, and tell your nervous system that you're safe. You're clearing the noise in your mind and in your body. And number 3 is to state a truth. This is where 2 Corinthians 10:5 happens. You're taking that thought captive by replacing that marketplace lie with your maker's truth. You could verbally say, "This is a task, not my truth." Or if it's something about feedback, then you could say, "This is a professional adjustment of my work, not a personal indictment of my worth." So the first part of your strategy is to not just feel the pressure. Recognize your tell and then tell it your truth. The second part of your strategy is what I call mastering the reset. We've all been there, standing outside a conference room or sitting in a Zoom lobby, feeling like our entire reputation is on the line. You're walking into a high-stakes meeting with a cup that feels empty, hoping that the room will fill it with a win or a well done. Mastering the reset is a mental framework to help you enter that room already full, so you aren't looking for the room to validate your worth. You're moving from being a consumer of praise to being a contributor of value. This strategy is really important because you cannot lead with conviction if you're constantly seeking validation. And this reset invites rest into the most stressful parts of your day. It reminds you that you don't carry the pressure of the outcome. So how do you master the reset? You have a pre-meeting protocol. It's like a pre-game routine or a warm-up, or my son plays baseball, so it's like his walk-up song. But I call this like your 60-second surrender. This isn't just a prayer, it's a realignment of your authority. Before every high-pressure interaction, take 60 seconds to use this mental framework to shift from proving to purposing. Before you click join or walk through the door, just take a minute. If it's a high-pressure meeting or presentation, just pray something like, "Lord, I already have your approval. Help me serve this room today without needing theirs. Use my talents for your purposes, but keep my peace in your hands." When you do that, you're moving from what will they think of me to how can I steward this moment well? and you can lead with conviction because you're not seeking validation. Or maybe it's before you walk into a performance review. You could pray something like, Lord, remind me that my soul is not on the table today. Only my output is. I work from your favor, not for it. This little prayer would detach your heart from the feedback so that you can improve your work without wounding your worth. In both of these scenarios, you're moving from a defensive posture of what will they think of me to a leadership posture of how can I steward this moment. The first two parts of our strategy, recognizing our tells and mastering our reset, help us handle the pressure in the moment. But how do we keep the weight from building up over time? That requires the third part of our strategy, which is decoupling your identity from your performance. In the corporate world, the carrot, the reward, the promotion, the validation, it's always tied to your performance. The danger is when we start moving that carrot closer to the cross, effectively trying to connect or correlate our professional performance with our eternal identity. We don't necessarily do this on purpose or intentionally, but it can happen if we're not careful. We have to learn how to separate our wins from our worth. Romans 12, chapter 2, tells us not to conform to the world's pattern, which says you are your metrics, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We have to retrain our brains to believe the cross is our basis and that everything else is just bonus. Performance is a moving target, but your position is a fixed reality. So how do we retrain our brains and decouple our identity from our performance? I think we implement a very intentional rhythm on Friday, which is an audit of your wins versus your worth. It's how you anchor your identity to the cross. So every Friday, before you shut down your laptop, take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, which is your performance side, list your professional wins and tasks and your to-dos from the week. This is what you did. This is your output. This is the carrot. It's a bonus to be celebrated, but it's not the basis of your soul. On the right side, this is about your position. List who God says you are. Chosen, redeemed, you're a masterpiece, you're loved. This is your identity. This is who you are. This is a cross. This part is your basis, and it's fixed. It doesn't change. Physically looking at these two columns helps you visualize the boundary. It reminds you, the left side is what I do, the right side is who I am. Remind yourself that the left side is about your performance. The left side is your output. It's what you do. It's the carrot. It's your bonus. But remember that the right side is your position. It's your identity. It's who you are. It's the cross, and it's your basis. Friends, I know we all live in the middle of these high-stakes environments. The meetings, the metrics, and the constant pressure to top our last win. But in the midst of it all, I want you to remember, you don't have to let your wins become your weight. Your success was never meant to be a burden you carry. It was meant to be a gift that you steward. So my challenge for you this week is to implement at least one part of the strategy that we talked about. Recognize your tells. Identify those moments that you feel a tightness that hits your chest, and use that panic pivot to reclaim your peace, to pause and to pivot. Or master your reset, which is like your pre-meeting protocol. Use your 60-second surrender so you can walk into any room already full and not seeking validation. Or decouple your identity. Establish that weekly rhythm of the wins versus worth audit to separate your performance from your position. Because the next time you feel the pressure to prove you're enough, I want you to remind yourself, you are moving from managing the pressure to mastering your peace. You can do the work of high performance without the weight of high pressure, because in Him, you are already enough. My prayer for you today and always is that you go lead with the clarity of who you are, the conviction of what you believe, and the courage to live out your calling in every room you enter. Thanks so much for choosing to spend a part of your day with me. I'll meet you back here next time. Hey friend, I hope today's episode gave you a little more courage to be yourself at work this week. If it resonated, would you please take 30 seconds and text it to someone you know who's also navigating those unseen tensions at work? And I'd truly appreciate it if you'd leave a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening right now. It's the best way to help more women realize they don't have to choose between their success and their soul. All right, that's it for today. It's time for me to close those 20 open browser tabs and prioritize my soul over my screen. Until next time, let's stop hiding in plain sight and start showing up boldly as a light.